They abandoned her at a bus station. She returned as a billionaire CEO. She was left at a bus station at age 7. No note, no goodbye, no one ever came back. But 15 years later, she walked into a boardroom, built an empire, and lit up the world that once left her in the dark. This is Ella Monroe, the girl they threw away, and the woman they never saw coming. From foster homes to Forbes, this isn't just a comeback story. It's a revolution written in wax, scars, and fire. Hit subscribe now, because you're about to witness what happens when the world underestimates the wrong girl. The girl they threw away. She was left at a bus station at age 7. No note, no one came back, but 10 years later, she built an empire that would shake the very world that once ignored her. The snow had started falling early that year. A girl no older than 7 sat on a cracked green bench at the South Station terminal. Her legs too short to touch the ground. She clutched a paper bag with a half-eaten sandwich, wearing shoes 2 sizes too big and a coat that wasn't hers. She kept checking the entrance. Waiting. 1 minute, then 10, then 30. She was still waiting when the cold crept through her socks and into her bones. But no one came back. Her name was Ella Monroe. And that was the day the world first told her, "You're disposable." No one filed a missing persons report. No social worker knew her name. She simply slipped through the cracks. That night, she slept in the back of a janitor's closet at the bus station. The man who found her the next morning gave her $5 and told her to find somewhere to go. So she did. Alone. At 7. By the time Ella turned 11, she'd learned more about survival than most adults twice her age. She could find food from church bins, knew which shelters didn't ask questions, and how to sleep with her shoes on so no one stole them. Trust was a luxury. Safety was a myth. But somehow, she didn't become bitter. She became quietly relentless. Every day, she told herself, "I'm not staying here forever." Even when no one believed in her, she whispered, "I will build something. I will matter." Fast forward, 10 years later. The skyline of Boston shimmered behind a towering glass building. Engraved in gold at the top, Monroe Enterprises. Inside the boardroom on the 41st floor, men in tailored suits nervously waited for the meeting to begin. Some whispered, "She's late," while others refreshed emails, too proud to admit they were intimidated. Then the door opened. In walked a woman in her 20s. Long dark coat, sharp heels, eyes like polished steel. No assistant, no announcement. She didn't need one. Ella Monroe had arrived. In just 5 years, she'd gone from selling handmade candles on the sidewalk to launching one of the fastest-growing sustainable home brands in America. Forbes called her the silent billionaire. Business Insider labeled her the girl who built herself. But she wasn't interested in headlines. She was interested in legacy, in reclaiming power from a world that once erased her. What they didn't know, she still kept the bench receipt from that bus station. Not to remember the pain, but to remember the promise she made in the dark. One day, I'll make this life mine. Not in spite of them, but without them. But even empires are not bulletproof. And even the strongest women have hearts. Ella had learned to fight the world. But she'd never learned how to let someone in. Until he appeared. Enter Carter Hayes, a 36-year-old CEO of a rival tech logistics company. Media darling, Harvard alum, rumored to be worth $500 million. He was the kind of man who could make headlines shift and investors tremble with a single call. Ella first met him at a charity event. He didn't flirt. He didn't pitch. He just watched her with quiet curiosity and offered her his last glass of champagne. "You built everything yourself?" he asked. "No," Ella replied, not missing a beat. "I survived everything myself. Then I built." His eyes sparkled. "That's the most powerful thing I've ever heard." And just like that, the walls Ella spent a lifetime building started to crack. But Carter Hayes wasn't just drawn to her ambition. He knew something about her past, something Ella didn't even know had been documented. And when that truth came to light, she would be forced to face the one thing she had buried beneath success. Beneath strategy. Beneath armor. Her origin. Not the version she told investors. The real one. Because when the world throws you away, it doesn't expect you to come back. But Ella Monroe? She didn't come back to prove them wrong. She came back to rewrite the rules. Session 1. Left at the bus station. She was only 7. No ID. No phone number. No one coming back. But from that moment forward, Ella Monroe would never again wait for anyone to save her. Boston South Station, 2007 to 4:52 p.m. The station was packed with commuters rushing through the cold, their breath puffing like smoke in the air. Loudspeakers echoed gate changes. Neon signs flickered overhead. No one noticed the small girl sitting alone on a bench with a wrinkled brown paper bag beside her. She had wide, alert eyes, mud on her jeans, a slice of peanut butter sandwich in her lap, and a plastic barrette barely holding her curls back. She kept glancing toward the glass doors where she'd last seen her mother. "Just stay here," the woman had said, voice tight. "I'll be right back." That was 3 hours ago. A janitor swept past. A man in a coat brushed her shoulder. No one asked her name. Ella Monroe was just another forgotten shape in the noise of the city. But inside her, something had already shifted. The kind of shift no child should ever feel. The click when hope locks itself away. The quiet understanding that no one is coming. When the sky turned dark outside the windows, Ella pulled her knees to her chest. She tried not to cry. Her mama hated it when she cried. Crying won't fix nothing. Girl, be tough. So she was. Until a security guard finally stopped in front of her. "Hey sweetheart, where's your parent?" Ella hesitated, then pointed at the door. "She just stepped out." "That's so?" he said gently, crouching down. "How long ago?" "Not long," she lied. "She'll be back." But the guard had seen this before. His eyes softened. He radioed someone. "We got another one." That night, she was taken to the Roxbury Child Intake Shelter. A woman in scrubs gave her a backpack filled with second-hand clothes and a stuffed penguin with one eye. "You'll sleep here for now, sweetie." Ella sat on the cot and clutched the penguin tightly. She didn't ask questions, didn't scream. She just stared at the peeling paint on the ceiling, her throat dry and heart-pounding. In one day, she had gone from daughter to number. The next 5 years blurred. Ella bounced through 4 foster homes, each worse than the last. In one, she shared a bedroom with 3 other girls. In another, the foster dad yelled constantly, and once threw a chair when she spilled soup. She learned to keep her mouth shut, to never ask for seconds, to never cry in front of anyone. But she also learned something else: how to observe. Ella watched how people moved, how they lied, how they held their coffee, how they locked their doors. She was building a mental database of the world's rules, rules no one had ever taught her. At age 10, Ella met Ms. Jeanette, a middle school teacher who noticed she never brought lunch, never raised her hand, never smiled. One day after class, Ms. Jeanette sat beside her. "You're not invisible, you know." Ella looked down. "You don't have to talk, but you deserve to be seen." That night, Ella wrote her first sentence in a notebook she'd stolen from the supply closet. "If I matter, then I have to prove it." By age 12, Ella had found a way to make money. She snuck into flea markets and flipped old books and used costume jewelry on Craigslist using the library computer. She memorized public bus routes, knew which bodegas gave out day-old sandwiches. Every dollar felt like a trophy. Every stranger she didn't have to ask for help felt like a win. She didn't want sympathy. She wanted power. One night, while reading an old copy of Entrepreneur magazine at the shelter, she saw an article, "Startups that grew out of nothing," and something inside her clicked. If they can do it, so can I. She didn't know what her product would be yet, but she knew what she was going to sell. Herself, her story, her strength, her grit, her will to keep standing. Not to the world, but to herself. Age 13, a group home counselor told her, "Ella, you're too smart to be here. You don't belong in this system forever." Ella replied, "I don't plan to be." In the mirror at the group home bathroom, she drew 3 words on the foggy glass with her finger. Not staying here. And every time someone looked at her like she was less, a foster kid, a lost cause, a problem, she repeated those words in her head like armor. Not staying here, because the world may have thrown her away, but it forgot one thing. Thrown away things? Sometimes they come back sharper than steel. Session 2, the fire that started it all. She was kicked out with nothing but a trash bag of clothes. But that night, in a high school bathroom, she lit a spark, her first act of rebellion, and the beginning of an empire. Boston, winter 2015, age 15. The rain hit hard that night. Ella stood in front of the small, two-story house in Dorchester with her backpack over one shoulder and a trash bag of clothes at her feet. The porch light flickered, the door already locked behind her. "You think you can mouth off in my house?" her foster mother had shouted just 30 minutes ago. "You're not special. You're just another check. Get out." Ella didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just zipped up her hoodie, grabbed her things, and walked. By midnight, she was at Franklin High School, crouched by the rear gymnasium door. She knew where the janitor kept the spare key. She'd memorized his schedule weeks ago. Always plan your escape before you need it, she'd once written in her notebook. Inside, the school was silent, dark, cold. She slipped down the hallway toward the girls' restroom near the art wing. She locked the stall, slid down against the wall, took a deep breath, then pulled a small box from her backpack. Inside, 10 handmade candles, scented with essential oils she'd snuck from a drugstore and melted down from discarded wax at a craft store's donation bin. Each candle sat in a repurposed jelly jar, labeled with a strip of masking tape and the name she'd scribbled in black ink. Monroe Lights. That bathroom became her headquarters. Every morning, before the hallways filled with noise and faces, she set up the candles on the sink counter. $5 each, cash only, no questions asked. She didn't sell to teachers, only students, and it caught on fast. "These smell better than Bath and Body Works. Can I get 3 for my mom?" "You made these yourself?" Ella said little. She let the scent of orange clove and eucalyptus do the talking. By month's end, she'd made $312. That was more money than any adult had ever handed her at once. And it wasn't a handout. It was hers. But word spreads fast. Too fast. By mid-February, the assistant principal called her in. "Selling merchandise on school grounds violates district policy," he said, peering over his glasses. "So does leaving a kid in the foster system for 10 years. Ella snapped back. He blinked. "Consider this your first warning. Next time, it's suspension." But it wasn't a warning. It was gasoline. That night, in the corner of a public library, Ella opened a free blog account. She uploaded pictures of her candles, added a PayPal Buy Now button, and named the site www.monroelights.com. She taught herself basic HTML using YouTube, designed a logo using a school Chromebook, used the school printer to make her first product cards. Her shipping center was a beat-up suitcase she kept in her locker. Her customer service team was just her replying to emails during math class. By spring break, she had $1.200 in savings, enough for a prepaid cell phone, a used bicycle, and a second batch of supplies, ordered under a fake email with a gift card she'd bought in cash. She kept her head down in class. She still ate free lunch, still slept in group homes. But every morning, when she looked in the mirror, she whispered, "They don't know it yet, but I'm building something they can't take away." One Friday afternoon, Ms. Jeanette, the same teacher who'd noticed her years ago, called her aside after class. "I heard about Monroe Lights." Ella froze. "You gonna report me?" Ms. Jeanette smiled. "No, I'm going to be your first investor." Ella stared at her. "What?" "I want to help you grow this, legally. Let's get you into a summer business program. I know a woman who runs a mentorship lab. You've got something real here." Ella swallowed hard. "Why would you help me?" "Because someone once helped me. And because I've never seen a 15-year-old read inventory charts during detention." That summer, Ella joined the Rising Roots Entrepreneur Lab, a local program for underprivileged youth. She pitched her candle brand, presented a full 5-slide deck, wore a borrowed blazer over her oldest pair of jeans. She didn't charm the judges. She impressed them. "Who designed your logo?" one asked. "I did," she replied. "In the library. No software, just hunger." They gave her a $500 micro grant and access to their workshop space. For the first time ever, Ella worked in a place with heat, clean counters, and someone who believed in her. By 16, she had a real bank account. By 17, a real INE. By 18, her first pop-up shop in the South End. And through it all, she never stopped burning her candles. Not just to sell them, but to remind herself that the world tried to blow her out. And she lit herself anyway. Session 3, the woman they didn't see coming. At 18, she stood on stage with trembling hands and a borrowed blazer. They laughed. But one man in the crowd didn't, and he would become the first to bet on her fire. Boston Startup Summit, Fall 2016. The ballroom at the Fairmont Hotel pulsed with ego. Men in tailored suits, women in $800 heels, clicking glasses, clapping half-heartedly, judging constantly. The startup pitch session was running 20 minutes behind, and no one seemed to care. Until they called her name. Next up, Ella Monroe, founder of Monroe Lights. Silence, then mild confusion. A girl stepped onto the stage wearing black slacks that didn't quite fit in a navy blazer with sleeves rolled twice. Her curls were pinned back neatly. Her sneakers were clean, but still sneakers. She didn't look like a founder. She looked like someone delivering coffee. Someone in the front row whispered, "Is this a high school project?" Ella stepped to the mic, hands steady despite the heat prickling her back. She cleared her throat. "Good afternoon. I'm Ella Monroe. At 7, I was left at a bus station. At 15, I started melting down candle wax in a school bathroom. And today, Monroe Lights has sold over 5,000 hand-poured units across the Northeast with 0 paid ads." That caught attention. A few eyebrows lifted. She clicked the remote. Behind her, slides flipped. Customer testimonials, repeat purchase rates, pop-up booth photos. "Our mission is to bring warmth, real warmth, to people who've been in the cold. Candles with story, with soul. Our brand isn't about perfection. It's about resilience." A woman judge raised a manicured hand. "Your numbers are promising, but your supply chain? You're using repurposed jars?" "Yes, ma'am. All local, all upcycled. That's not scalable. And frankly, not sanitary." A man in a blue blazer smirked. "No offense, Ms. Monroe, but this feels more like a feel-good charity than a real business." "What's your margin?" Ella took a breath. "After supplies, I net $4.22 per candle. That's barely anything. It's enough to matter when you started with nothing." The room shifted. Some were intrigued. Some were already checked out. But one man in the very back hadn't taken his eyes off her since the moment she started speaking. His name, Cameron Hale. Early investor in 3 unicorns. CEO of Hale & Company Ventures. Known for backing underdogs and seeing the future before it had a name. He watched as Ella finished her pitch, thanked the crowd, and walked off with her shoulders held high, even as the judges barely offered polite applause. He saw the slight quiver in her chin. The fight she didn't let fall out of her mouth. He didn't clap. He took out his phone and typed, "Monroe Lights, Ella Monroe, schedule a meeting." Backstage, Ella sat alone with a lukewarm water bottle and a silent phone. "I shouldn't have come," she whispered. She hadn't expected applause, but the smirks, the condescension, the word, charity, they hit harder than she wanted to admit. She was tired of proving she belonged in the room. She wanted to build the room. That evening, while she packed leftover candles into her rolling suitcase, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Boston area code. She hesitated. "Hello? Ms. Monroe, this is Cameron Hale's office. He'd like to meet with you Monday. Can you come in?" Ella nearly dropped the phone. "He saw my pitch?" "He did, and he said you're the woman they didn't see coming." Monday morning, Hale & Company headquarters. The lobby was marble and glass. 2 floors of fountains and silent tension. Ella stood at reception with her best blouse, second-hand heels, and her suitcase of Monroe Lights products. She was ushered into a sleek glass office with a view of the city she used to sleep beneath. Cameron Hale rose to shake her hand. "They underestimated you," he said simply. Ella raised an eyebrow. "You didn't?" "No," he smiled. "You walked into that room like you'd already survived the worst day of your life. That's the kind of founder I back." He gestured for her to sit. "Tell me what you need." She told him. More than funding. She needed manufacturing space. A real online storefront. Suppliers who'd take her seriously. A mentor. A fighting chance. He listened, then slid a folder across the table. Inside, a $100 seed investment agreement. Equity split. Mentorship clause. Product accelerator access. Ella stared at the paper. Her hands didn't shake. Her eyes didn't blink. "Why me?" she finally asked. Cameron leaned back. "Because you're not here to play the game. You're here to flip the whole damn board." As she walked out of the building, she passed a girl mopping the lobby floor. Ella stopped. "What's your name?" "Alyssa." Ella reached into her suitcase. handed the girl a candle wrapped in tissue. "You matter, Alyssa. Don't let this place make you forget." The girl looked stunned. Ella didn't wait for a thank you. She stepped into the sunlight. Not just as a survivor anymore, but as a player. Session 4, First Burn. First Betrayal. The brand was taking off. The team was expanding. But just when Ella started to believe in people again, someone took her past and sold it to the press. Boston, Spring 2017. The production floor buzzed with motion. Candles lined conveyor racks like tiny soldiers. New packaging with gold foil stamped Monroe lights glistened under fluorescent lights. For the first time, Ella wasn't making candles in a school bathroom, but in a leased warehouse with a staff of 12. Sales had quadrupled since her pitch at Startup Summit. She had her first retail deal pending with a boutique chain in Chicago. She was building momentum, real momentum. And it scared her, because every time life started to feel stable, something had always collapsed. "We're in Forbes." Ella, Daniel, her head of logistics, burst into her office, phone in hand. "They listed you in 10 women founders to watch under 25. Ella blinked. Her name, in Forbes. She didn't cry, but something inside her, something she'd buried years ago, shook loose. "We're not watching you anymore," Daniel said. "The world is." Ella smiled softly. "Then I better not blink. But the world that watches you also waits to tear you down." 3 days later, the headline dropped. Foster girl turned founder. The dark past behind Monroe lights. Former group home child turned candle mogul. How Ella Monroe's rise from the system is raising questions about what she's hiding. The article was loaded with innuendo. No factual errors, but plenty of poison. They quoted anonymous, former classmates. Dug up an old mugshot from when Ella was 14 and arrested for shoplifting food. Posted a photo of the South Station bench where she was found as a child. It went viral in hours. And not in the way Ella had hoped. The comments section. "This is the girl people are investing in? Just another sob story for clout. Bet those candles smell like trauma." Her Instagram DMs exploded. Some supportive, most weren't. And then came the email. From a burner account. "Now everyone knows who you really are. Welcome to the truth, street girl." Someone inside her team had leaked her past. In her office, Ella stared at the screen. Hands clenched. The air felt thick. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. The panic clawed at her, telling her to disappear. To run, just like she used to. But this time, she stayed. She picked up her phone and called the only person who had seen her before the glow-up. "Ms. Jeanette, I need you." That night, they sat in Ella's living room. She didn't own much. Just a second-hand couch, a coffee table, and candles burning in every corner. "I trusted them," Ella said, voice hoarse. "I built this with my own hands. Why would someone try to humiliate me like this?" Ms. Jeanette looked at her. "Because power built from pain scares people." Ella shook her head. "I can't go back to hiding. I won't, but if I say nothing, they control the narrative, and if I speak, they'll call it a pity play. Then don't speak to defend." Jeanette said. "Speak to define." The next morning, Ella called an all-staff meeting. She stood at the front of the warehouse floor in jeans. A white t-shirt, no makeup. "I'm sure by now you've all seen the article." She began. The room went still. "It's true. I was abandoned. I lived in shelters. I've stolen food. I've lied to survive. But I have never lied about who I am. Not to this team. Not to this brand." She looked around, eyes burning, not with shame, but purpose. Monroe Lights wasn't built to impress rich people. It was built to remind anyone in the dark that warmth still exists. If you're uncomfortable with that, there's the door. No one moved. One of the interns, Alyssa, stepped forward and handed Ella a folded note. Ella opened it. Inside, "You made me believe I could be more than what happened to me. Please don't stop." Ella swallowed hard. "I won't." That night, she posted a video on Instagram. No filters, no music. Just her. "You want my story? I'll give it to you. I was abandoned at 7. I've known hunger. I've known silence. But I've also known the fire of building something from nothing, of turning shame into strength. I am not broken. I am becoming. And if that offends you, you're not who I'm building this for." The video hit 1.2 million views in 48 hours. Media outlets picked it up. Celebrities shared it. And most importantly, so did survivors. 1 week later, Cameron Hale entered her office with a small grin. So, that equity offer from Luminate Ventures we were chasing? Yeah? They just tripled it. Ella raised a brow. Thought they were scared of bad PR. Turns out, he said, real stories sell better than polished lies. Session 5, The Man in the Elevator. She just finished a standing ovation keynote on resilience. Then she stepped into an elevator and met the man who knew everything about her past and wasn't afraid to look deeper. New York City, summer 2017. The auditorium lights dimmed behind her. Ella had just delivered a keynote at the Women Founders Impact Summit, and for once, she allowed herself to smile as she walked off stage. Her words had landed. She could feel it. No press traps, no pity applause, just truth, and a standing ovation. She'd worn black, structured and clean, her curls tied back into a single braid. The same sneakers she'd worn since her Forbes feature, her signature. She called them now. That was powerful. Someone told her backstage, "Raw, you're not like the others." She thanked them with a nod, clutching her phone and notes, already scanning for the nearest exit. Ella didn't like the afterglow. She preferred the build-up, the fire, the work. The spotlight still felt foreign, no matter how often she stepped into it. She pressed the L button in the elevator and exhaled. Just her and her silence. Until the doors started to close, and a hand reached through the gap. A man stepped in, tall, late 30s, navy-tailored suit, slate gray eyes that didn't dart away when they met hers. Ella gave him the polite half-smile reserved for strangers. But something in his posture, the stillness of him, unsettled her. He stood beside her in the elevator, hands in his pockets, not looking at the screen, not checking his phone, just present. "Your talk," he said. After a beat. "You didn't just speak. You disarmed a room full of people who spend their lives wearing armor." Ella blinked. "That's quite a compliment." "It's not a compliment," he said calmly. "It's an observation." She arched a brow. "Do I know you?" "Not yet." He extended a card. "Carter Hayes." She froze for half a second. Carter Hayes, founder of Hawthorne Logistics, CEO of the largest privately owned last-mile delivery company in the U.S. Elusive, media-shy, worth a rumored $500 million. She'd heard his name in pitch rooms, in investor circles, in sentences that always started with, "If Carter Hayes backs you." Ella stared at the card, then looked up. "What do you want?" "A conversation. Not here, not now, but when you're ready." "Why me?" she asked. He smiled, barely. "Because I don't believe in accidents. And because I've been watching you since that Forbes piece." The elevator dinged. She stepped out first. He didn't follow. "Think about it," he said, just before the doors closed. 2 weeks passed. Ella didn't call. She couldn't stop thinking about him, but she didn't call. She looked him up. His company was everything hers wasn't. Polished. Masculine. Old-world power. Trucks. Warehouses. Billion-dollar contracts. They shouldn't mix. She didn't trust the attention. Not from men like him. Too many men had smiled at her before showing teeth. Then came the logistics delay. One of Monroe Light's newest retail chains had lost a shipment. 400 units. A warehouse backlog. Insurance red tape. She was bleeding $22 in orders and 2 weeks behind in fulfillment. And Carter Hayes' name was still in her pocket. She called. He answered on the second ring. "You took longer than I expected. I don't like being watched." "You're not being watched, Ella. You're being studied. There's a difference. Same outcome. I lose control." "You never lost control," he said, "but you're smart enough to know that control without infrastructure is just a sandcastle. So help me build steel." She said. A pause. "Meet me Friday, 9 a.m. Hawthorne HQ. Bring your worst numbers." Friday, Hawthorne HQ. She walked into the boardroom carrying 3 folders and a chip on her shoulder. He stood when she entered. No assistant, no coffee waiting, just respect in the silence. "You dress for war," he said, glancing at her boots and leather jacket. "I've never left the battlefield," she replied. He smiled. "Then let's talk strategy." They spent 3 hours going over her supply chain, distribution, and last-mile options. He didn't interrupt. He didn't dumb it down. He didn't flirt. He listened. And when she finished, he closed the folder and said, "I'll cover the gap. You'll pay me back in equity or candles, your call." "You're just offering to fix this?" "No, I'm offering to partner." Because I don't invest in products. Ella, I invest in revolutions. And you are one. She left with a handshake and a contract to review. Outside the building, she exhaled into the cold air and whispered to herself, "You just shook hands with a man who could buy your entire world." But deep down, she wasn't afraid of being bought. She was afraid of being seen. And something about Carter Hayes. He didn't just see her brand. He saw her. Session 6, the candle and the flame. She lit the world with wax and wicks, but this was a different kind of fire. Carter Hayes had unlocked a door she kept sealed for years, and now she had to decide if she'd run or let him in. The new production facility smelled of cedar wood and lavender oil. Monroe Lights had officially outgrown its cramped warehouse. With Carter's support, and without a dime of free handouts, Ella had expanded into a newly renovated workspace 3 times the size. But bigger space meant bigger risk. Deadlines, distribution, inventory audits, and now, a high-stakes partnership deal with a global home decor brand that could put Monroe Lights in 2,000 stores nationwide. If she pulled this off, she wouldn't just be a girl with a story. She'd be a force. But that morning, a fire inspector flagged the facility. Ventilation issues. Packaging materials stored too close to production heat. She had 4 days to resolve it or risk suspension. Ella slammed the file down on her desk. Breath sharp. Her team was already stretched thin. And the new interns barely knew wax from water. She hated this part. The part where the past whispered, "You're not ready for this. You built it too fast. You're still just the girl they left at the bus station." The knock on the office door startled her. Carter stood there, dressed down in jeans and a gray pullover, holding 2 coffees. "Thought I'd drop in," he said. Daniel mentioned the inspection. Ella crossed her arms. "You checking on your investment?" "I'm checking on you." That unsettled her more than the violation notice. "I don't need babysitting." "I didn't say you did." He set the coffee down gently. "But sometimes, even warriors get tired. You look tired, Ella." She looked away. "Tired doesn't mean weak." "No," he said softly. "But it means human." For a few minutes, they sat in silence. The hum of the building. The scent of fresh wax in the air. "When's the last time someone just showed up for you?" Carter asked. She scoffed. "Never. I didn't give people that job." "That's the thing about building alone," he said. "You get good at survival. But not connection. Connection gets you hurt. And closing yourself off, that hasn't hurt you?" That hit harder than she wanted it to. Ella stood, pacing. "Look, I appreciate the help. I do. But if you're expecting anything more, I'm not," he said quickly. "Not unless it's what you want." He leaned forward, voice low. "But I see you, Ella. Not the story. Not the brand. You. The girl who built fire with her bare hands. And I'm not scared of your walls." Her throat tightened. "You should be," she whispered. That night, she didn't go home. She stayed in the warehouse, fixing layout errors, moving boxes herself, until her muscles burned and her head ached. At 1:43 a.m., she finally collapsed onto the beanbag chair in the break room. Staring up at the ceiling, she picked up her phone. No missed calls. No one checking if she made it home. Except a text. "Carter, the offer to talk still stands. Or sit in silence. Whatever you need. Just don't do it all alone again." She stared at the screen for a full minute. Then replied, "Warehouse. Now." 20 minutes later, Carter walked in. No questions. No comments. He sat on the cold floor beside her. Legs stretched out, sipping a coffee he'd brought for himself but slid across to her without a word. They didn't talk for a while. Just breathed in the silence. Like 2 people who'd earned it. Finally, Ella said, "Do you know what it's like to work this hard? Be this visible, and still feel like no one sees the part of you that's bleeding?" Carter turned to her. "Yes." She looked at him, surprised. "Everyone thinks I inherited money." He said, "Truth? I built Hawthorne with loans from 3 friends and 11 maxed out credit cards. I lived in a warehouse cot for 2 years. No family. No fallback, just pressure, and silence." Ella's lips parted. "Then why do you still trust people?" He smiled, sad and soft. "Because eventually, someone trusted me first." A long pause. Then she asked the question she never let herself ask. "What if I don't know how to let someone love me without breaking me?" He didn't touch her, didn't rush in. He just looked her dead in the eye and said, "Then we take our time. But know this, Love doesn't always come to fix you. Sometimes, it comes to sit beside you until you remember how to breathe. By sunrise, she had a plan to fix the fire code issue. A meeting with the city inspector, and the first whisper of something she never expected. Not desire, not romance, but safety. And for Ella Monroe, that was more terrifying than any headline. Because once you feel safe, you have something to lose. Session 7. The one thing she couldn't control. She built herself from nothing. But when the press discovered her relationship with billionaire Carter Hayes, the headlines didn't say, CEO. They said, gold digger. And this time, Ella Monroe wasn't just fighting for her company, she was fighting for her truth. Winter 2017 Boston. The photo hit the internet at 7:16 a.m. Ella Monroe, Carter Hayes, side by side at a charity gala. Champagne flutes in hand, smiling, not like business partners, but like something more. The caption read, Billionaire CEO Carter Hayes spotted with Monroe Lights founder. Are they Boston's new power couple? By noon, it was trending on Twitter. By 3 p.m., the vultures circled. Comment threads exploded. Figures. Build a sob story. Catch a rich man. She's no different than any influencer with a hustle. Oh please, like she got to the top alone. The tone wasn't surprise. It was suspicion, dismissal, contempt. Not for Carter. For her. Ella sat at her desk, scrolling through the headlines, jaw locked. From foster girl to billionaire's girlfriend, inside Ella Monroe's rise. Self-made, or strategic? When business meets pleasure. The woman behind Carter Hayes' smile. She slammed her laptop shut. They weren't questioning her numbers, or her innovation, or her resilience. They were questioning her right to exist at the same level as him. And she hated how familiar it felt. Carter showed up that evening with takeout and a calm expression. So, he said, setting down 2 cartons of Thai food. The world discovered we occasionally hold hands. Ella didn't smile. They're rewriting me. They're trying to. You don't get it, she snapped. They'll turn me into an accessory in your story. I'll go from founder to footnote. Then we rewrite it back. She looked away. Carter, I've worked my whole life to be more than what they assumed I'd be. And now it's all being reduced to who I'm seen with. He stepped closer. I didn't ask to be part of your story. I asked to walk beside you in it. But if this hurts your brand, I'll step back. No drama. No press leaks. Ella blinked. You'd really do that? If it's what you need. Yes, but I think you're forgetting something. What? You're still Ella Monroe, the girl who fought for every inch of this life. If you don't speak up, they'll fill in the blanks. But if you do, he paused. They'll remember you didn't come from power. You became it. The next day, Ella sat in front of a camera and filmed herself, again. No glam, no filters, just her voice. I've seen the headlines. I know what they're saying. That I built my brand to attract a man. That I rose because I charmed my way through boardrooms. That maybe, I was never self-made at all. So let me say this clearly. I didn't survive 27 foster placements, homelessness, and systemic erasure to be called a +1. I'm not a billionaire's girlfriend. I'm the reason I'm in this room. And I don't belong to anyone. Not even to your narrative. She hit post. The reaction was nuclear. Some still dragged her. But thousands, especially women, especially survivors, lifted her higher. She's not soft. She's steel. This is what reclaiming power looks like. You can date a billionaire and still be the reason your name holds weight. Brands reached out. Talk shows called. The gala photo? It became a symbol of something deeper than gossip. A woman who refused to shrink just because a man stood beside her. But Ella was still wrestling with something inside. She met Carter that weekend at a quiet cafe near the harbor. No cameras, no glam. I'm scared, she admitted. He didn't flinch, didn't blink. Of what? That I'll lose myself in this. That you'll become the shield I never wanted to hide behind. He leaned across the table. Then let's make something clear. What? You were Ella Monroe before I met you. You'll be Ella Monroe long after. The only thing I'm here to do is make sure you don't have to walk through fire alone anymore. They sat in silence for a moment. Then he added, and also, let's be real, I didn't save you, Ella. I just got lucky enough to stand in your glow. She finally smiled. Soft, real. You have a way with words. Hayes. Nope, he said, just facts. That night, she went back to her apartment. Lit one of her earliest candles, the original label. scratched and smudged. She watched it flicker and whispered to herself, "You're not losing control. You're learning to let it go." Session 8. When the past knocks. The woman who abandoned her at the bus station 15 years ago just walked into her office with tears. A story and a request Ella never saw coming. Boston, January 2018. The Monroe Lights headquarters was quiet after hours. The scent of melted honey, sandalwood, and jasmine lingered in the air. Ella sat alone in her glass-walled office, reviewing a distribution contract, sipping green tea from a chipped mug that had survived every version of her life: foster homes, shelters, pop-up booths. Her world was finally steady. Then the front desk buzzed. "Ms. Monroe, there's a woman here to see you. She says she's your mother." Ella froze. The word rang in her ears like a dropped bell. "My what?" "She says her name is Clarissa Monroe." The pen slipped from her fingers. She hadn't heard that name in 15 years. Not since the day she was told no one ever came back to South Station for the little girl in the white t-shirt and jelly shoes. Not a letter, not a birthday card, not a whisper. Ella stood slowly, legs lead heavy. When she stepped into the front lobby, her heart thudded in her throat. The woman waiting there looked older than Ella remembered. Weathered, hair graying at the temples, eyes bloodshot but familiar in shape, because Ella saw them in her own mirror every morning. She stood. "Ellie," the woman whispered. No one had called her that since she was 7. Ella didn't speak. Clarissa stepped forward, but stopped herself. "I don't expect anything. I saw you on TV. And how did you get past security?" Ella said, her voice cold, cutting. "Please, just give me 5 minutes." Ella looked over her shoulder at the empire she'd built with fire and grit and pain, and then back at the woman who'd vanished into the night with no explanation. No goodbye, no love. "You have 3. They sat in the back break room. Clarissa wrapped her hands around a cup of water she didn't drink. "I was young," she began, "and scared, and alone." Ella folded her arms. "So was I. Difference is, I didn't leave anyone behind." Clarissa swallowed. "You don't know what I went through." "You're right, I don't, because you never told me." A long pause. Clarissa pulled something from her purse, a folded photo. Aged and crumpled. Ella glanced at it. A little girl, maybe 5, with tangled curls and a wide grin, riding a tricycle. She recognized the tricycle. It was the one she had the night before everything shattered. "I kept it," Clarissa whispered. "I never forgot you. But you left me. I was addicted," she said quietly. "Hooked on pills. Living with a man who wasn't kind. I didn't want to drag you through that. So you left me at a train station," Ella said, voice trembling with fury. "To protect me?" Clarissa's eyes welled. "I thought someone better would find you. I thought maybe you'd get a real chance." Ella stood, hands shaking. "I was starved, abused, shuffled around like baggage. I slept under stairwells. I counted bites because food ran out." She was crying now. She hated that she was crying. "I built myself up from the dirt you left me in." Clarissa stood too, gently, palms open. "And I'm proud of you. You don't get to be." Ella snapped. "You weren't there." "I know," she whispered. They stood in silence. "Until finally," Ella said, through grit teeth. "Why are you really here?" Clarissa looked down. "I'm sick." Ella's body went still. Stage 3 liver failure. From the years of damage. "I don't have family. No one to list as emergency contact. No one to help." Ella swallowed hard. "You came to ask me to take care of you?" "I came to say I'm sorry," Clarissa said, tears falling now. "But yes, also that." That night, Ella sat in her apartment, a candle burning beside her. She couldn't stop shaking. Carter called twice. She didn't pick up. He finally texted, "Talk when you're ready. I'm here." She stared at that message, then stared at the mirror. She saw the strong CEO, the fearless founder, and the girl still aching to know why she wasn't worth staying for. 2 days later, Carter showed up unannounced, holding 2 coffees. "Word is, you've had a hell of a week." Ella let him in. "She's back," she said. "My mother." Carter didn't speak. He let her fill the space. "She's sick. She wants help. But I don't know if I'm strong enough to be what she needs after everything she didn't give me." Carter sat beside her. "You don't owe her healing. But maybe, helping her is how you finish healing. Or maybe I'm just setting myself up to be hurt again. That's the risk we take," he said softly. "With love, with people, with life. He took her hand. But here's the difference. Ella, you're not that little girl waiting at the station anymore. You're the woman who owns the whole damn train. Session 9, What Forgiveness Costs. When your past knocks, do you open the door, or bolt it shut? For Ella, forgiving the woman who abandoned her may be the one battle she never prepared for. Boston, 1 week later. The hospital smelled like bleach and bad memories. Ella stood in the hallway, fingers clenching the donation form she'd signed an hour earlier. Anonymous. No publicity. No press. She wasn't there to make a statement. She was there because she couldn't look away from someone who once looked away from her. Clarissa Monroe lay curled in the narrow bed, oxygen hissing softly at her side. Her skin was paper thin, her cheeks hollow, but her eyes opened when Ella stepped in. You came, she rasped. For now, Ella said, quietly. Don't make it more than it is. Clarissa nodded. She didn't cry this time. You always were fire, she whispered, even when you were little. You used to try to hold the flame of birthday candles with your fingers. And you used to let me. Ella said. Silence. I'm sorry, Ellie. Don't call me that. That night, Ella sat at her dining table, candle burning low, Carter across from her, silent. She's dying, Ella said, and I feel nothing. Or maybe too much. I can't tell the difference anymore. Carter didn't try to fix it. That's why she let him stay. You know what forgiveness feels like? She asked. Like swallowing fire and pretending it doesn't hurt. Like telling the child inside you to stop screaming because the adult version needs to be composed. Then don't do it for her. Carter said. Do it for you. Forgiveness isn't a gift I owe anyone. Ella muttered. No, but it might be a weight you don't have to carry anymore. The next morning, she visited again, this time with a nurse's clipboard in hand. I moved you to a private room, she told Clarissa. The doctors will handle your medication. I'm covering costs for now. Clarissa stared at her. Why? Because the part of me that still dreams of being loved needs to see this through. I'm not the mother you deserve. No, Ella said, swallowing, but I'm still going to be the daughter I needed. She stood. This isn't redemption, don't mistake it, but it's something. 3 days later, the tabloids got wind. Monroe Lights founder pays hospital bills for estranged mother who abandoned her at age 7. They ate it up. Some praised her. Others called it a PR stunt. Some said it was weakness. Ella ignored them all, until a Monroe Lights stockholder sent her a private message. You're emotional. That makes you unstable. Our board is concerned. And just like that, forgiveness had a price tag. Carter paced her office, hands on his hips, fury etched in his jaw. They want to penalize you for being human? For showing grace? They want a product, not a person, Ella said. And now the brand is bleeding because I did something they don't understand. So fire them. She looked up. What? Buy their shares. Call in new investors. Build a board that reflects who you are, not who they wish you'd be. That's nuclear. Carter. No, that's freedom. That night, Ella stared at her mother's old photo. The little girl on the tricycle. The one who had to grow up too fast. She picked up her phone and recorded a video. To anyone who thinks forgiveness is weakness, I dare you to try it. I dare you to look someone in the eye who broke you, and choose not to become them. I didn't pay her hospital bills because I wanted her love. I did it because I know who I am. I'm not her. I'm not broken. And no boardroom, brand, or contract will ever define the parts of me that still remember being 7 years old and forgotten. That girl deserved a better ending. So I gave her one. The post went viral. Not for pity, not for profit, but for truth. Thousands of comments poured in from people who understood. People who had forgiven. People who hadn't, but now wanted to try. And when she walked into the next board meeting, she carried a folder titled, New Direction, New Standard. 5 investors left that day. 10 more applied to replace them, many of them women. Survivors, underdogs. Ella wasn't shrinking for anyone anymore. That week, Clarissa slipped into a coma. Ella sat at her bedside, one hand on her lap, the other gently holding her mother's frail fingers. I don't know if you can hear me, she whispered, voice breaking, but I need to say this. She closed her eyes. I hated you. For years, I dreamed about screaming at you, slamming doors, asking you why. But now, I just want peace. For you, for me. I don't forgive what you did. But I forgive me, for carrying it this long. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I'm letting go, She placed a candle on the windowsill. The first one she ever poured. Lit it. And walked out. Session 10, The Light She Became. 15 years after she was left at a bus station, Ella Monroe stood beneath a spotlight again, this time not to ask for help, but to offer hope. Not to survive, but to lead. New York City, spring 2018. The crowd rose to their feet before she said a single word. The Women of Impact Legacy Gala had honored titans before, media moguls, politicians, CEOs. But tonight, the youngest honoree in its history stood in a floor-length black dress. Curls cascading down one shoulder. Eyes full of fire and restraint. Ella Monroe. The screen behind her read, "The Light She Became." She stepped to the podium. Heart pounding, not with fear this time, but clarity. 15 years ago, I was left at a bus station with a plastic bag and a lollipop. 10 years ago, I was melting wax in a school bathroom to keep my hands from shaking after another rejection. 5 years ago, I was told I'd never be taken seriously unless I had the right connections, the right last name, the right look. But tonight, I stand here as the founder of a global company, the daughter of no one, and the mother of my own second chance. She paused as the room stilled. My story isn't unique because I made candles. It's unique because I lit my first flame without heat, without home, without hope. And I built a life not from privilege, but from pain. And I stand here to tell anyone listening, you don't need to be born into light. You just have to become it. Applause thundered. Some stood, others cried. Carter, sitting in the front row, didn't clap immediately. He just watched her, like a man witnessing a miracle. Backstage later, she held the glass award in her hand, almost afraid to breathe. Carter approached, slow and quiet. "You know," he said, "there's something terrifying about watching a person become exactly who they were born to be." Ella turned to him, eyes shining. "Terrifying for who?" He grinned. "Everyone who ever underestimated her." They walked outside into the cool spring air. No cameras, no spotlights, just two people who had learned to meet in silence. Not noise. "What now?" he asked. She looked up at the stars. "I want to open a shelter. For girls like I was. Not just beds, but mentors. Legal support, therapy, candles in every room. I'll help you build it." "No," she said, smiling. "We'll build it together. But I want them to know, it came from me. From someone who survived them. Not someone who saved me." Weeks later, the paperwork was filed. The Monroe house would break ground that fall. Carter's team would handle logistics. Ella would design every corner, down to the candle scents. But first, there was something she had to do alone. She returned to the train station. South Station. The bench. The place she stopped being someone's daughter, and started becoming her own protector. She sat on the same rusted metal seat. A fresh candle in her lap. Not to mourn, not to punish herself, but to say goodbye to the little girl who waited, and finally, became her own rescue. A little girl nearby watched her quietly, her mother fumbling with luggage. The child wandered toward Ella. Ella held out the candle. "For you," she said. "What's it for?" "For when things get dark." The girl smiled, then ran back to her mother. Ella stood, walked away, and didn't look back. 6 months later, Los Angeles. Monroe Lights launched in Target nationwide. 3 new product lines. A children's line named First Flame. A scholarship fund under her name. And Carter, still beside her. Not ahead, not behind, just there. On their first anniversary, he gave her a single candle. No label, no box, just a note inside. "You never needed my fire. You were the match all along." Final scene. Ella Monroe, age 28, standing on the stage of her new shelter. 100 girls below her, each holding a candle, some scared, some scarred, but all of them staring at a woman who once sat where they had. And she said, "If you're here tonight, I want you to remember something. No one gets to define you but you. Not your past, not your pain, not the people who walked away. You are not broken. You are becoming." She lit her candle. One by one, the room followed. And in that moment, the girl they threw away became the woman no one would ever forget. She was the light all along. She was abandoned, judged, doubted, but in the end, she didn't need a rescuer. She became her own. Ella Monroe didn't throw a grand party when Monroe House opened. There were no red carpets, no press tours, no designer gowns. Just 117 girls, ages 8 to 18, standing in a circle, holding candles. Each one had been hurt. Each one had been discarded by a system that called them at risk instead of worth saving. But each one had found their way here, to the place Ella built. A place where no one was told they were too much. Or not enough. Just home. That night, Ella sat beside a girl named Maya. Tiny. 11. Eyes like steel. Maya had been through 3 homes in 1 year. Didn't trust anyone. Spoke only when she had to. But tonight, she leaned over and asked softly, "Do you ever get scared, even now?" Ella smiled. "Every day. But you look so brave." Ella turned to her. Brave doesn't mean never being afraid. It means showing up anyway. She handed Maya her own candle. "You ready to show up?" The girl nodded, and for the first time in months, smiled. Later that night, Carter found Ella on the rooftop, wrapped in a hoodie, eyes scanning the sky. "So, this is it?" he asked. "The empire you built from wax and willpower?" Ella chuckled. "It's not an empire. It's a matchstick with a message." "Which is?" She turned to him. "That no matter who leaves you, no matter what name they call you, no matter what door slams in your face, you still get to choose what burns. And what lights the way." The world would go on spinning. More headlines, more deals, more tests. But inside her, the little girl who once waited on a cold bench for someone to return, wasn't waiting anymore. She had moved on, lit up, and turned every scar into something glowing. Ella walks alone through a candle-lit hallway at Monroe House. Each flame flickers with a name written in gold ink, girls past, present, and future. As she reaches the end, a final candle sits on its own. She bends, lights it, and the label reads, "The girl they threw away." She stands, walks on, and behind her, the whole room glows. The end. Because some of us weren't born into light, but we learned how to carry it. Thank you for watching this Millionaire Love Stories today. Every love story is a journey, filled with passion, heartbreak, and unforgettable moments. And here at Millionaire Love Stories, we bring you the most captivating tales of love, wealth, and destiny. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget, like to support more incredible content. Comment your thoughts. Would you choose love over riches? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Millionaire Love Stories. Because love knows no limits. Because love changes everything. See you in the next story.